this. All right. So good evening, everyone. This is Craig Blanchett, and we're gonna have band practice. I love the we've been talking so much about uh, analogies of musical instruments and playing together in symphonies and harmonies. And so I've been asking a lot of people, "Are you going to band practice tonight?" And they're like, "Yeah, bring your instrument. We're gonna play some music tonight. It's gonna be great." But I wanted to kind of just welcome you all for being part of the band, really, and bringing your instrument and the process that each one of you has gone through of tuning your instrument over time. And we've got some things that we want to Tim and I are going to talk about with you tonight, but I wanted to give a little bit of a recap. We have some folks that are joining us for the first time tonight, and so I wanted to welcome those folks. We also had some people that are rejoining us again that maybe haven't been here in a while, and so I'm excited that you're joining us again. And you know who you are, Christina, Stephanie, to be specific. Um, the One of the things that we've done over the last couple of months is we've been building some some things that aren't specifically techniques or ways of doing certain things, but they are more um, casting a better foundation for what it's like, for example, in the music analogy, what it's like for an orchestra to play amazing music together. And we talked about the first week where we talked about connecting with kindness and how we can the thing that rings in my mind is the reality of each one of our lives is over our life we're going to lose everything that we care about. So what if in the meantime we treated each other with kindness, and we noticed each other, we connected with one another, we engaged with somebody by asking a question, by being interested in them, and then if there was something that we could offer, maybe holding a door for somebody, who knows what it is, but that we would make an offer of some side, of some kind, right? The next week we talked about how our stories have are little bridges to people's hearts, and that you have so many more stories or points of view than you realize. That each one of us, for all of us men that are fathers, well, we're fathers, we're husbands, we're friends, we're siblings in many cases. We have our hobbies that are where we can share stories to connect with people, lots of things. And then we moved on. And last week we talked about the idea of the intentional heart bridges or bridges the crossing. I think that's what it was. Yeah, and it's the idea of when we're careful and when we're paying attention to not just being self focused, that we can reach a hand out and help somebody take an action, make a decision, make a quality decision. I was just talking with somebody and they said, "Hey, I need the link for a certain thing," and I said to them, I said, um, "The I said to them, that's a quality decision." And so you think about those kind of things. What is a quality decision? And then the other analogy that we talked about was you have a first grader or a second grader that's getting ready to go to soccer practice. And they're really excited because they got all their soccer gear. But when they get to the soccer field, they're nervous and they're a little bit afraid. And how the intentional heart can guide the crossing by you walking over, or a coach walking over and saying, "Hey, I noticed your new shoes, man, those are awesome. Hey, why don't you grab my hand and help me out on the field?" or something like that. So that was the idea last week about the intentional heart guides the crossing. And so I wanted to take a minute, if you guys can just think about kind of the idea of have a little stopwatch in your head of like 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds, and think about to yourself a way that your intentional heart has guided the crossing in this last week of somebody that you've connected with. Who would like to go first tonight? You're going to have to either raise your hand, unmute yourself, or just you can do one of these. Probably that would work.
Hey,
How
Craig.
about you? Yeah. Hi, Daniela. Go for it.
Hi. Well, I might be a little longer than 30 seconds if that's okay. I
Yes.
I had kind of an amazing thing happen to me this Sunday where a woman at church waved me down and she says, "Oh, it's you, it's you. Do you remember me?" And we had this conversation where she kind of refreshed the conversation from over a year ago. And what I realized about that conversation as she was sharing with me is that it touched on every aspect of all these things that we were talking about, have been talking about over these weeks. Um, Basically, what she shared with me is, you noticed us being new and sitting at the table, and they were visiting our parish, thinking about, is this a good place to live, and moving to the community. And I'd asked her questions and talked with her and encouraged her in her move and things like that. And I had invited her to, have my number and to explore some different resources and places in the community. And I gave her a list and things like that. Um, I was listening to her. I used keys, and I didn't even know this at the time, but like this is all coming to me as I'm listening to her come tell me. And she's saying, um, remember, you told me that you were a teacher and that these were some good schools. So, I used that key to kind of bridge that, the fact that I'm a parent too. And she said, remember you said your son had this issue too? Well, it helped me with my son. I mean, she just went on, and it was kind of fun. I probably stood there sort of with my mouth open, I'm sure, and as all this was crashing into my head. And anyway, she was sharing with me that they were so excited and had been living here for a little while now, and were glad to be integrating into the community and things like that. And then her husband did something that went ding 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 in my head, like, oh my gosh, this man is a multiplier, right? So he comes, she reintroduces me to him and says, this is my husband Robert. And he reaches out his hand and he embraces both my hands in his hand, and he says, ah, you're the woman that delighted my wife. And I just thought, who is this man? He's doing exactly what we've been talking about. And then I started asking more questions because their son was there as a Boy Scout, and what's he do, what's he into, what are they doing? And it turns out part of what he's doing is selling wreaths. Well, every year I buy a bunch of them for our staff and things like that. And so I thought, okay, this is good. So I bought them from him. Um, I asked when we could see each other next. And then I asked her husband, I said, do you think it would be fun if we all got together for dinner sometime soon? And he's like, yes, that would be great. So long story short, it was such a like slam to my heart that all of this came together after all these conversations that we've been having. And I just started thinking to myself, wow, now if I would have done that with a little more intention more often, what could happen? So that's my story.
Well, I'm just gonna take a minute and let that sink in. Like it's almost like it's effortless because it's sinking into you. It's like it's it's not something you're bolting on. It's just something that's weaving through your heart, and it just kind of weaves out into your relationships. It's beautiful. That was fantastic, Daniela. Wow, What a great story. Thank you. Just going to let that one sink in a little bit. Lenan, yes.
Hey, y'all. Well, so interesting. I think the question is just how are you connecting with people? I went to a women's retreat this weekend. Absolutely amazing. It was really fascinating to connect with this woman that's been married for like 47 years. And she's a therapist, a counselor. She has a doctorate in one thing, a master's in another thing. And, you know, I could have been just completely intimidated by that. Like, what do I have to offer this person? I can't, like, are you kidding me? But to not let that or something parallel to that, you know, anything that we could see in a person that we would go, I can't approach that person. But to see what you guys have been talking about, where is she hurting? What are her needs? What are the voids in her life? And just sitting, listening to her as a real person. You know what I'm saying? Not like, oh, this person has a doctorate. I can't possibly, I don't know what, sit in her presence, you know? So to just look at her as a woman who is hurting, and connect on a really basic level and share out of my own experiences and my own story. And I think what you guys have been saying has really been infiltrating into my being. And I really had the desire to, how can I take her from the hurting, broken place where she is to a better place? I don't think I was conscious at the time that this is a bridge to something better for her. So I told her a story, and I wove this thing of hope, and that there was, what if there was something better in the future? What would that look like? And what could we do to make that happen? Anyway, that's all I can say right now.
Thank you, Lenan. Wow, we're showing up different. You guys are bringing your instruments and you guys are playing some beautiful music tonight. I so appreciate that. I I wanted to bring on Tim as well, as we're him and I are going to share a couple little stories here. But as I'm bringing on Tim, I want to have a little picture here that I wanted to share with you guys, and it is Genevieve. Welcome back. Look at you. I'm so glad you're here. This is think about this kind of an idea. When you come to a challenge, or when you think of when growing or upgrades, when you think about, I'd like to give myself an upgrade, or I'd like to accomplish this thing, when it comes to something hard, do you say, oh, I can't do that? Or do you ask yourself, how can I? You think about the difference in your mind of just that little bit of a question. Because one of the things that when we're thinking about multipliers, just starting with that change of a question, I honestly believe that when you change it, when you say I can't, your world stops there. You're at the end. It's like the earth is flat. You've come to the end of the earth. But when you change the question to how can I, you cross over this barrier, and all of a sudden you are now in a whole new world, because now you have options, whereas before you didn't. So think about that as I introduce Tim. Tim, welcome back to band practice.
Hey.
You're here.
Hi, guys. I'm so glad to see all of you. And I just thought about this. How fortunate are we to be together like this, to share like this? And how many people feel comfortable and free and like you're learning something? Do you feel that? You know, I mean, isn't it awesome? I mean, Lynn Ann, your story was so powerful. Daniela's story was so powerful. And I just wanted to tell you some of the things that we talk about. Remember when we talked about how to connect with kindness? You know, we gave you 6 steps of choreography, but a lot of times when we're talking about these principles, the first person we should use them on is ourselves, right? It's like, what story are you telling yourself? You know, are you telling your, remember what, I don't know, some of you that are new tonight, when we were talking about stories, I said, what would it be like if I put a loudspeaker on your head and turned it up so everybody within 100 yards could hear the way you were talking to yourself and the story you were telling yourself? Would you feel good about that? And I have never been in a room or talking to people that said, yeah, I'd really like that to happen. But just think how powerful. And the one thing I wanted to tell you, we're talking tonight about multipliers. So do you know that your brain will take the information you give it and basically act on it as if it's true, physiologically? A good example with that would be, do you think that everybody was sailing the ocean when they thought it was flat? Do you think they were all stupid? Or do you think that they took the information that they had and made it true in their mind, and then they conducted all their sailing as if that was true, as if the world was flat? I mean, just think about that for a second. What, have you ever thought about this? When you're sleeping at night and you have a dream and you're being chased by something and you wake up safe and sound and warm in your bed, your heart is racing and you're completely out of breath. You're having a physiological response to something that isn't real, that existed in your mind, but your body is reacting to it. And it takes you a while to, even though you wake up and you say, I'm in my own bed, I'm safe, there's nothing chasing me. And it takes a while for your heart to stop beating fast and for you to start breathing normally again. Okay, if it's true for those kinds of things, what about all the other information that you give your brain, that your brain acts on it as if it's true? It can either decrease your life or multiply your life. So I want you to just think about this, just this simple little thing. Instead of saying how it can't be done, what if you asked yourself immediately when you were facing a challenge or facing something that you said, how can it be done? Just that simple little thing. What if I drop this in your brain and I say, you know, Kelly, it's pretty difficult to go put on 20 new clients in a month. I don't know how you're going to do that. But what if instead I said to Kelly, you know what? It's going to be so great. We're going to go out and put on 20 new clients this month, and it might be 20 individuals. It might be 10 couples. It might be 2 businesses with 10 people with a weight loss challenge. Who knows who it's going to be, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and lives are going to be changed. Those 2 things makes his brain act on the information completely differently. So the first place you practice multipliers is in your own mind. And I'll give you, how many people have had the idea that, oh my gosh, you know what, 5 clients went into transition and I need to put on 5 clients next month. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Raise your hand if you've ever done that. Have you ever done it? Okay, so what if you instead, and then you said to yourself, oh my gosh, I've got to go out and find people to be my client. Does that feel good? Shake your head if it doesn't feel good when you think that way. It doesn't feel good. What if you said this? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited because 5 of my clients have transitioned into a healthy lifestyle and I'm going to celebrate them. And guess what? I've got room for 5, maybe 6, maybe 7 more. So you know what I'm going to do this month? I'm going to go out and intentionally create relationships of value that uncover needs and vacancies. And when I find those, I have an obligation to offer to fill those with whatever means possible. Do you see the difference? Oh my gosh, I got to go out and find 5 clients because 5 clients just transitioned and my volume went down and I don't know what to do. Oh, how am I going to do that? Or you know what? I'm going to go out and intentionally create relationships with people that are of value. And I'm going to uncover in the process needs and vacancies. Do you know that for the New Year's resolution in 2019, they did a study and 71% of the people that were polled said that their number one concern was what? To get to a healthy weight. But they said, I need to lose weight. How many people know that if you tell in your mind that you have to lose weight, that you've got a 98% chance to fail in the first year. And over the next 2 years, the 2% of the people that succeed, you've got a 98% chance to fail for those. So really, if you think about, I've got to lose weight, and 70% of the people, 71% of the people polled said they wanted to lose weight. Well, that means they've got a 2% of a 2% chance when they think about it that way. But in your mind, if you said to yourself, oh my gosh, 71% of the population of the United States wants to lose weight, but I've got a secret. Instead of a 98% failure rate, I can offer them a 98% success rate, because we're not going to lose weight. We're going to create health. We're not going to diminish, we're not going to take away from them. We're going to expand them. We're not going to take away their pizza. What we're going to do is we're going to give them fresh, delicious food, and they're going to live 10, 15 years longer. Their life is going to expand. It's not going to diminish. What if in your mind you thought that? So that's a multiplier in your mind. If you take a fact that's true, 71% of people polled this year say they want to lose weight. Well, you know what? We already know that they have a 98% chance to fail. So in our mind, we're thinking, you know what? We're going to give them a 98% chance to succeed, because we're going to go out and create intentional relationships of value. And then guess what? Through the course of that, we're going to uncover needs and vacancies that they wouldn't already share otherwise with other people, because they know we care. And we know we have no rules, and we have no agenda, and we have no time limit. And guess what happens then? They feel free to share their needs and vacancies. And guess what we do then? We have a moral obligation, a professional obligation. We have a human obligation to fill those needs and vacancies. Does that sound a little easier than, oh my gosh, Patty, you better go out and find 10 new clients this month because you've got to? Does that feel a little bit better? So what about another multiplier? What if I said, you know what? In my mind, I know that if I talk to a lady, she's got other people that she cares about. She's got children. She's got grandchildren. She's got coworkers. She's got best friends. She has a spouse maybe. And you know what? If I can talk to her authentically and find the needs and vacancies in her life, I can impact every single person that she cares about in her life. So when I go out and talk, that just formed a multiplier in my mind, and it changed the words that are coming out of my mouth. You see, there's no competition for what we're talking about here. Everybody's trying to say heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, mobility, all these other things. You got to lose weight because you're going to have a heart attack, and, you don't look good enough, and blah, blah, blah. They're saying all this stuff. And you know what? Why don't we just climb Mount Everest 25 times backwards? That's not going to work. But what if we went out there and said, you know what? I just want to say to you, Martin, you know what? I'm so excited to talk to you, because when your life changes, everybody you care about is going to be inspired. And it's going to be a ripple effect. And I am so privileged to have this conversation about your health and your life, Martin. Tell me, what's going on with you? Is that a little bit different than, you know what, you need to lose weight because you're going to die of a heart attack because of your age and your category, and you know what, I'm going to give you a pharmaceutical grade fueling to eat every day instead of your favorite food, and all you're going to drink is water. You can't have your favorite drinks anymore. And we're going to put you on a calorie restricted diet, and every time you go out with other people, you're going to have to say, no, I can't have that food, and I'm weird and all that. I could say that to them too. But I don't have to worry about all that other stuff. If I'm connected with him and I care about him, and I'm thinking about that, it multiplies everything. I say it multiplies the relationship and the trust we have with each other. And I guess, you know what, I'm going to give you some really simple multipliers. What if I was saying hello, good morning to Craig, and I said, good morning, Craig? Or what if I said, good morning, Craig, I'm so excited to see you today? Or what if I said to Aaron, nice to see you on the Zoom, Aaron? Or what if I said, Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time to be here tonight. I know that you have a busy schedule. We greatly appreciate you being here. Did that take me, 10 seconds more to do that? But do you see the look on her face? And I mean it, So what I would love you to do is you're getting a lot out of life. You're amazing people. But what if we added multipliers in your mind and in your heart? There's a saying that says wisdom calls in the street, but no one's listening. It's standing right there, right beside you, and no one's paying any attention at all. Do you realize that we have so many times when a simple touch, a simple change, a little word, like I was telling Craig, you could leave your house by saying, goodbye, honey. Or you could leave your house and say, sweetheart, thank you so much for spending time at coffee this morning. And I just want you to know that, the only woman I can see in my mind throughout the day is you. I love you. I'll see you tonight. I mean, you know what? What if that over time, do you see how multipliers start to add up? You know, what if you're taking your kids and instead of going, hurry up and get your shoes on, you said, you know what? I love putting your shoes on. I love helping you tie your shoes. What kind of bow should we tie today? Should we tie one with a double knot? Should we tie one with a big, long, floppy bow? What do you think? You know, oh man, I love your choice. I bet you can run real fast with your shoes tied like that. I'll see you. I'll pick you up after school, okay? Do you see the difference in that multiplication factor? Multipliers create trust. They gain access to the lives of people. They make your life more joyful. They take stress away. You know, and if we approach, and I'll give you just two more, okay? How would you like everybody to how many people want more referrals? Raise your hand if you want lots of referrals. Okay, do you know if you try to get a referral from somebody, all the statistics say that it's very difficult. Like you can incentivize a referral, say, hey, you know, get a free coupon if you refer a friend to me. Those things don't work. What instead if you did something that no one else did, and that the average sphere of influence of a human being is between 250 to 300 people that they interact with in any given moment throughout their day. About, you know, the average person, if you Google sphere of influence, it's somewhere between 250 and 300 people. What if you earned the right to have them introduce you to everyone they knew? What if Lynn Ann said, oh my gosh, Tim, you know, or Craig, or, you know, Jose is such a great guy. You've got to meet him. You know, he changed my life. He's there for me. He helped me get healthier. He extended the quality and quantity of my life. I want you to meet him because you know what? The very least of the things that'll happen when you meet Jose is that you'll love the conversation. Hey, when can we do that? How would you like to conduct? Now, I want you to think about this. When you're interacting with your clients, how could you create a relationship where they would initiate wanting to introduce all the people they know to you? How could you do that? How could you rephrase it? You know, we have a lot of sequencing. We have like share calls and celebration calls, and we have the health assessment. And most people, we are taught all of our life, you know, do this test this way, read this book this way, do it this way. And so we get so caught up on how to do something, and we're focused on that, we never think about why. The health assessment is just a bunch of information about another human being, but is a context to uncover needs and vacancies and find out more about another person. And well, you should get good enough with a health assessment that you don't have to use it. You could use a napkin. People say, well, why do you have to get so good at what you do? Because there's another human being on the end of the connection. There's another human being on the end of what we're doing. And so if you think to yourself this, I am talking to only one person who has never existed in history and never will again. They're the only one of their kind. So this is a privilege, and that lights your brain up and it gives you multipliers. You're going, how could I talk to them different? How could I observe them differently? How could I serve them better? How could I show up, and how could I make it so when they get done with this conversation, the first thing they say is, oh, it's over. I can't wait till Cassina calls me again. That was so good. I can't believe it. 30 minutes went by and it felt like 30 seconds. What an amazing woman. I can't wait to talk to her again. You see how, if you get what I'm talking about, these multipliers, do you get it? So what if you just went to bed tonight and you said to myself, what if I added multipliers to every aspect of my life? The way I think, the way I talk, the words I use, the intention that I have. I'll bet you could come up with 1,000 things that I can't come up with, or that Craig can't come up with, you know, because you're unique. Remember the person you're talking to, there's never been another one like him. Well, there's never been another one like you either. And your creativity and your drive and your intention and your brain and your heart is virtually untapped. It is untapped. You have an infinite resource inside of you to multiply beyond your wildest dreams, the quality of your life, the impact that you make. So I would love you to really think about that. Does that help? Would you wave at me if this helps your brain think a little bit more? Yeah, good. Thank you, Craig, so much. I hope that was helpful, my friend.
Yeah, no, absolutely helpful. And I'm thinking in my mind, first things, and I don't know, maybe some of you are thinking this similar things that I'm thinking about, is, well, first of all, I see value in what Tim said. I see value in multipliers. I see it as a way to make the hearts that I interact with smile more often. Think of someone's heart smiling. When you found somebody or you came across somebody, your paths cross. What if your intention was to make their heart smile before you left them? And so my mind starts with these big picture ideas where I go, oh yeah, I'd like that. And then I think, well, I can't do this everywhere. I want to upgrade every part of my life and make multipliers everywhere. And then I start to think, well, what's one place I could do it? I'll get to the rest of them, but I'll start with the first one. And I think of people that are the most important to me. I oftentimes tell my wife I love her. And I thought, and I tell her that a lot. I use those exact words. And I think it's probably nice to hear that. But what if with that first relationship, I was able to have a little more time and think about it? How do I love her? Why do I love her? What do I love about her? Just started asking myself a few more questions. And then I added a multiplier. And then when it came to, I don't know, the next person that I hang out with a lot, and how could I add multipliers to that relationship? And how could I make their heart smile more after we've connected than it was before? And I'm wondering if you guys have some thoughts as you're going through that, like what are some areas or what are some relationships? I'm sure you guys are visualizing definitely with this one. I may not know all of them, but it's definitely going to be this one. What would that look like for you guys?
And you know what, Craig? I love what you said. I was just going to say, as you go, let's let everybody do this. And what's going on in your mind? What's going on in your heart? Ask a question, whatever it is, and go ahead. I didn't mean to get in your way there, Aaron.
Oh, it's okay. I was just raising my hand because I had a note about making somebody's heart smile more. Two things. Well, one, I love that idea. Two, I actually did that the other day. Recently broke up with the guy I was dating, and I actually wrote him a massive gratitude letter. Just like everything that I'm thankful for. By the way, I'm at the Apple store, so I'm going to talk a little quieter. But just wrote him a massive gratitude note. Like it took me 2 hours to write, and I went through and I just said, I love how passionate you are about being an athlete. I love, that you would drive all night just to watch your daughter dance for 5 minutes in her dance recital. And I just literally like really intricate, detailed things. And he was like, no one's, after he was done reading it, he was like, no one's ever done that ever or said those things ever to me. And it's just amazing how the power and the impact of words are with making somebody's heart smile. Like just words, even though it was an email, even writing it, an actual letter, gratitude letter, I think is really powerful. Because I think, writing letters are very extinct now. And it's very old school, and it means a million times more than anything would. Words are very powerful, and that's just, I know I made his heart smile, and that impact, I don't think it was cool to be like, wow, no one's ever done that for him. That was very cool. And so that was very cool. And then I actually just did a random act of kindness this weekend with my nephews. We went and put, I went to this balloon store and got these huge heart balloons, and I put them all over a huge area where there's cars, like in this little part of town that's really cool, where there's a lot of foot traffic. And I put, kindness is free, and there's just a cool little note on their cars with the balloon. And everyone's heart was like instant smiling, like everywhere that I was putting these balloons, and people were coming up to me and they're like, what are you doing? That's so cool. And oh my God, the world needs more of it. Just it's amazing just like what a little thing can do. That's so powerful, you know? So those are the two things that came to mind. And it just, that vibration that you're putting out, right? You're in a joyful state and you're radiating joy, and that only brings in things that cause more joy and gives joy to other people. And I just love the whole concept of what just adding that little extra detail can do. So
Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. That's great.
mhm.
What else do you guys think of? And think of, if you can each think of one, and we got just a few minutes left here, but I'm wondering if each of you can think of at least, whenever I think of something that seems like a big audacious goal, it's really important, it's a big deal, and I want to do it. If we just at least start with the obvious things, we don't have to get everything first, but we can do the obvious ones. And so, does anybody want to, I'd love for each of you guys to do that. And maybe I'll just go around you and you can think of one person and then maybe a short example. And Darla, why don't you go first or second? Yeah, and I think you have to unmute yourself. Can you get it? There you are. Here, let me see if I can do it. Oh, I think I got it. There you go.
Oh, did you get me?
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
I'm having issues. Okay, if you guys hear the ball squeaking, it's my dog who won't leave the ball alone. So that was that.
A multiplier for the dog.
Okay, in my brain, the first people who came to mind were actually my granddaughter who lives with me, and speaking kindness and multipliers to her.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is her caregivers and her teachers who on a daily basis work with her, and I need to show them how much that I appreciate that, and bring some good clarity to that so they know how much I appreciate it.
That's excellent. Sounds good. Thank you. Carrie York.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so glad to see you. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm just thinking to my work. I work with about 75 amazing teachers, and we are on the front lines with really high need kids every single day, and just that extra little touch of touching their heart, rather than go good morning and you're off to do your thing. So just connecting that way, and being in a new position this year, it's really given me an opportunity to step out. So, and I even noticed earlier this week that this gal had a salad, or not a salad. She was measuring her applesauce, and I'm like, oh, she's doing something. And so when she was at the copier the next morning, I said, hey, I really noticed that. And she goes, you did? I go, yeah. What are you doing? And she was so excited. And I said, well, I'm going to just keep encouraging you as you're on your journey. So just making her heart smile.
That was connecting with kindness as well. And you noticed her, and then you draw attention to that.
I mean, how many people measure applesauce in the staff room? Never many.
Yep. Thank you. That's great. Very good. Don Carpenter. You'll have to unmute yourself, I think. Okay, Don.
Wow. Yeah, so powerful. Just so simple little things you can add. I loved your examples, Tim, of just, adding that little bit of something else, And so I guess tomorrow's a big client support day for me. So my hope is that I can add some multipliers as I connect with clients.
That's great. I'm thinking about practicing this even right now, and I actually have been, because there's a few of you that I haven't seen. Did you notice I did that with Genevieve earlier? Right? So Genevieve, you're next. How about that? By the way, I am super glad you're here.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah.
So I work and have worked in the medical field for like 30 years, and it can be a tough place to be. And so trying to remind yourself to be kind to your coworkers every day, because the patients that come in aren't always kind to us. Something is not always going right in their day. And so every morning when I walk into work, I intentionally greet everyone as I walk through the office, because I come in the back door and I have to walk all the way to the front of the office to my desk. So I greet everyone, good morning, and I say their name. And if they look like they're having a bad morning, I stop. Hey, how are you doing? Is there something I can help you with? And as I leave at night, I do the same thing. Good night. See you in the morning. Have a great, whatever. So it makes me feel good about getting their day off to a good start or ending their day on a good note, because I know that it hasn't always been that way. So I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, good to have you. Christina, by the way, Christina, I am so glad you're here. I know your video is not on, but I
My
basically,
video is never on, Chris.
that's all right. Well, and I just told her, I said, I hope I see you tonight. I miss you. And she said, I'll be there. And we just had a nice little chat before the meeting today. And so thank you for showing up. Who would you think that would be someone you would want to add some multipliers to? Or what would that look like?
Well, I do it with Clara all the time. I try to talk to her better than I was spoken to as a little girl. So creating those kind of things with her are not easy, because I struggle with her learning, because I'm learning at the same time. And if two people are learning together, it can get a little difficult, especially when one can't communicate with words. It makes it a little hard, but I'm constantly so aware of how or at least I try to be aware, or I'm actively aware, let's put it that way, how I talk to her. So like things that I say when, say we just woke up from a nap or something, and I'm like, Clara, I don't want to watch a movie. Instead of snapping at her, I'll think first, obviously, because that's helpful to think first. But I like to say something like, would you like to watch a movie? Or which movie would you like to watch? And then I pick the lesser of two evils between the movies. So learning to speak to people I wouldn't say it's difficult for me. Learning how to better speak to someone as a human, and not just like as the things that they do, but to talk to them like they're a human being. That's a lot more difficult, because you have to be very aware of yourself. So I just think I'm starting with my kid. I'm getting the hang of it, but there's definitely a long road still to go. But my kid is definitely the best guinea pig ever. So
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, thank you, Christina. And the neat thing about that is that, as we're thinking about this, if we've added multipliers and we've done this, maybe that's just part of who you are as a person, that you're kind and you're careful with your words. But what if we were added, if our current intentionality level is a 5, what would it be like to take it to a 6? So what would it be like to increase our intentionality from today moving forward? Like how will this, because we've been doing it, we all are pretty intentional, we all care about people. So how can we upgrade our intentionality, right? Let's see, Casina, what would it look like for you to upgrade? And there's someone specific that you'd like to focus that on.
So I think, like, even with my parents, that have done so much for me and continue to be my biggest supporters, and people that in the season of singleness that I'm in, that I spend probably the most time with outside of coworkers, and just not taking for granted the fact that they're my parents and that they're people with hearts that hurt and love also. And just being more self-aware, because I think, you know, even as an adult, I tend to still, they think of me as a kid still, and I still think of them as like my parents at times, and just being sensitive to their emotional and physical needs. And this weekend, like, I just was like, oh my gosh, like, you guys should come over and I'll make dinner for you. Which I don't do very often. I live in the city, and they live out in the country. So most of the time when they come to me, we go out to eat somewhere or doing something. But my mom mentioned so many times yesterday how like nobody ever invites them over to dinner. Which is heartbreaking to me because my parents always opened their home every Sunday after church. We always had friends and family and people over, and they continue to do that. And our culture's gone further and further away from like that kind of social interaction of just having people over for a meal. And so I know that that's a big part of their heart that's been hurting and missing. And so I had no idea like how much that they would enjoy that.
Yeah, that's good. It's nice when people they have these kind hearts, and sometimes they expose the fact that they're like, sometimes their hearts get hurt or hurting, and we can just love them. I love that. Kelly Teal.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, for me, as I go through my day, each day, probably my goal of the day is to ask people about, hey, what about your daughter? What did the doctor say about the test that you did? I always try to ask them about a loved one or a family member. And when you start asking people about someone they love, they open up and let you in. And when they do that, you know, you just listen to other people, and other people say, well, how you doing today? Oh, fine, you know, but really, do they want to take the time to listen?
Mm-hmm.
And the more you do, the better off you are.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. Thank you for that. How about you, Patty? By the way, good evening.
Hello.
We missed you last week. I'm glad you're back.
Oh, thanks. So I guess for me, it's just connecting. I've had some really good connections lately with fellow widows, and it can be really emotional. And I kind of cling to other widows. And so it's been amazing to be able to just communicate with them. And I was meeting with one of my friends yesterday. She was bringing all the things, talking about how the things that she feels like she's not good at and all this. And I'm like, think of all the things you're wonderful at. And so I was just calling out all the great qualities she has, the things that people love in her. And I'm like, let's focus on that and not the things that maybe you don't like in your life or you don't like how you're acting. And so that was just really powerful. So I think that's kind of what we're talking about. I mean, just lifting her up and letting her know that she's loved and she's an incredible person. And so we had just great bonding time yesterday.
Well, yeah, and just thank you, Patty. And just the simple things of even when you're bonding, what if we were to upgrade our goodbyes?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just a little sync like, hey, I'm so glad that we had this time together. I'm looking forward to the next time versus later.
Yeah.
Right? See ya.
We actually prayed. We prayed together and gave big hugs. So it was awesome.
Good job. Yeah, this is I wanted to give an opportunity. We're getting right up to the top of the hour here, and so I'm sure you guys have some things. But does anybody have something specific? Because I want you guys to have a chance to share. But before we go, who would like to go next? How about Kim? How about you?
Love to. Actually, I just have been thinking about this topic for a while, and I wanted to share. I shared a little bit last week for a conference that I went to, and one of the other things that they shared, I mean, it's just like this conference is the same message as what we're getting here. And they said, you know, if everybody needs somebody to show them how to treat somebody else, and you don't teach them that, you show them that. And they said if 10% of the people did that, it would make 100% of the difference. And I think about what Erin shared that she did, you know, talk about a multiplier. She did one act, and every single person that received that, you know, those commercials where like it just keeps like paying forward and it keeps multiplying, it keeps spreading. And one of the things I wrote down word for word, you know, when you stop for one, it always impacts more than one. And if you never stop, you'll never know. And he said, your story is connected to the fact that someone stopped for you. And I think we can all sit here and attest to the fact that someone stopped and noticed and saw us. And like I shared last week, seen people see people. And so I'm very inspired by this whole concept. And and I think it's important to remember it just takes, like, I think, Craig, you've been saying it a lot. I know Tim said it too. 1 degree difference, adding 1 extra word, and that angle, that trajectory takes you to a completely different destination. So what my commitment is for this week is that I often say, hey, how are you today? Just a quick, how are you? My goal for this week is whenever I'm prompted to say, how are you doing? I want to say, you know, I've been thinking about you. And you know what I really appreciate is this. It's gonna, and I'm gonna have to really think about it because every person I ask that question, I'm gonna actually have to think about it. And so I'm sure that that is going to magnify their days. Hopefully that'll multiply out into their life. I know it will come back to me for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. Tim, I think you had something there.
Well, this is so amazing. You know, I don't know what Kim said about the multiplying effect and the ripple effect is so extremely powerful. And I just want to add another multiplier in your mind, and that is that, think about this, 1 grain of sand eventually tips the scale one way or the other. 1 grain. 1 little tiny thing can tip the scales one way or another. You know, when I was teaching, people used to say, why do you teach that way? Why is every detail so important? What is it about? And I said, my heart is that when these children grow up, they will be able to say yes when they're supposed to say yes and no when they're supposed to say no. And they will know the difference, you know? And so think about that multiplier, 1 grain of sand tips the scales one way or the other. You could be that grain of sand. That change in your tone of voice, that 1 touch, that 1 look in your eye, that 1 intentional step. And, you know, if you think about the multiplier effect that Kim talked about that, and remember that quote from Mother Teresa, she said, and I'll pull it up here, never worry about the numbers. Help 1 person at a time, and always start with the person in front of you. So this has been so powerful to see all of you, and gosh, I mean, my heart's all filled up. So thanks for having me on again tonight, Craig.
Yes. No, yes, it's my pleasure. And I think, Debbie, did you have your hand up there at the end? You did. Can you want to share yours, and then we will, you got it? Go ahead. Oh, you have your mouth full of food. Dang it. And I called on you.
I just love everything that we're saying. But I had this woman that I work out with that we've become friends with, and I saw her daughter. She posted something on Facebook, and she lost her sister, and she lost her mom, her sister to cancer, and her mom just to old age. And so I've been a friend throughout that with her, and I just see her at class, at a conditioning class that we take, but we've become pretty close. And I saw her by surprise at the gym, and she said something about pray for her daughter. And so when we ran into each other, I was like, how is she? Is she okay? And she got the biggest smile on her face. And what Kelly was, I think it was Kelly, was sharing about how just asking about a family member. And when I left, she looked at me and she goes, she had the biggest smile, and she goes, it is so good to see you. And it made me feel really good because I felt like I really felt like I was accepted by her. And just the fact that I'm just there for her, just to say, I'm so glad she's doing okay, and let her talk to about her daughter. And I don't know if she's a multiplier, but it just brought, when you bring a smile to somebody's face and they look at you and make you feel the way you hope you're making them feel, was just kind of my example.
That's perfect. So here's an idea for this week that I want to invite you all to do. So think of everybody's heart, and when they're done interacting with you, it smiles. Maybe it was smiling beforehand, so maybe it smiles a little bigger. Maybe it was sad and it smiles a little bit more. But think about how we can have help people's heart to smile more after they've interacted with you than it was beforehand, with the use of multipliers. And I'm confident that as you focus on this, you will start to see ways this can happen. We set our intention and we tell our mind, pay attention to this. And then it goes, it's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. And you just start seeing them everywhere. And so that's the invitation for you this week to do that. And I will look forward again to band practice. Again, you guys all have beautiful sounding instruments. I love playing with you. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.